so much of my work is about creating or the co-relationship I have with nature. In fact, it's kind of constant collaboration. So if I'm growing stuff out here like the walking stick cabbages or the flax recently, I'm able to be with it and to observe it and to watch it. At the same time, I'm able to go into the studios and develop work, and it's a constant kind of relationship between the two different spaces. And that's why the garden is really precious for me. So there's a history, there's lots of histories in the garden. For example, when I did the weight project, which was measuring the human touch weight of 50,000 2p coins, most of the coins are buried under there because I wanted to see how long it takes for a coin to lose all its facings. So in other parts there are different pH values in the whole garden from different projects where I've had to create different soils really for different projects. It's a space where it stops me, it makes me in a way connect to the wider world. It sounds ironic because it's a garden and it's a really small urban garden, but it does do that because I can closely observe stuff out here. And then in the hydroponic tents, when I'm growing moringas and stuff like that, it helps me closely observe and try to better understand our relationship with the natural world. Since we've been here, all these trees are grown since we've been here. They were, Anne bought the trees and they came as little sticks, about that big, and I remember planting them out in November, but it was freezing conditions and I didn't give them a chance. And then just within a few years, this is what they've grown into, so that it's that kind of fecundity is just amazing and really still makes me amazed at how a little seed, like the walking sticks, are little bits of seed that are like dust. But within 4 months they're about 14 foot high and they're huge. So the garden changes all the time. So if there's a big project that gets cleared out, the trees remain, but and I grow a lot of stuff in pots so we can move them around. I've only ever opened it once accidentally to the public, and that's when we were growing 120 walking stick cabbages. You can imagine the smell locally was phenomenal. But also people got to hear about these strange cabbages that become walking sticks. And this whole area was a field of walking stick cabbages that was way above my head, so you couldn't see the ground at all. And so people did come and have a look because they were curious. A lot of people have been here to look at the moringas that I was growing, but they were all mainly horticulturalists or scientists coming to just have a look and look at the root development of these unique trees, really. So yeah, you get a lot of visitors, but I don't see it as a public space. It's really a studio, and that's the important thing to me. As is the whole world, really. It's a studio. Nyman was a banker. He was a city banker who got very wealthy and moved out of London and went to live in wherever Nyman's garden is. It's Sussex, I think. And he bought this land and devoted his whole life really to horticulture and to the collection of pressings and stuff like that. And then there was a tragedy, there was a fire, so his whole collection, which was one of the world's leading collections of specimens, burnt. And they wanted somebody to come in and just begin to look at the possibilities of starting that whole business up again. And the garden itself it's only had 4 head gardeners over 100 years, so it's kind of really established and thousands of people go to it. But what I wanted to do was make a language where I knew the origin of each letter, so I could say it's there and it's that plant. So we did a lot of work. I took many pressings from the garden, brought them back here, went to another studio where we put all the pressings on the wall, and we got linguists in who could look at the shape of English letters and how we read them. So it's called the phonological loop, and say that would be best. So if you want to be able to read the language, those shapes are the best shapes to fit those letters. So it was a long process. And then we installed it all in diamonds. I thought if we could etch them in marble, what would happen would be that eventually all the dirt and soil would get into the letters. So originally you could hardly read them because they were just white marble etched in. And you can read them now because that soil that's just got, when it's been outside, it's just got into the letters. So it was just a way really of marking it. These are the original pressings. So they're, it's amazing how they've held their colour. But they're, so when you see Nymans written, after a while you suddenly realise you're reading it. And that's because of the skill of the people I work with at Beam, Jonathan Cassiani, Oliver Wood, and other people who put the alphabet together. And it was amazing. The Christmas it came out, I sent out a kind of little example of it. And it was amazing how many people got back and said, I can read it. And as soon as you've got just a few letters, you can begin to read it, although it is simply made up of petals and flowers.